I've heard this several times.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, on every one of those occasions, it was a man. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
A little bit of sexism, a little bit of misogyny. Once again, men deciding what girls and young women can and can't do. And welcome to the final part of the Yahoo Footballing Weekly season with me, Neil Humphreys.
And me, Han Keong. I forgot my name.
He forgot his name.
And
He's remembered his name all season long and forgets his own
right
name on the final episode.
And we have Shasi back with us.
Cheers.
Former podcaster, former Singapore Premier League player.
And just remind them of your podcast again.
Yeah, it's called the Silver Fox Hustle Podcast. We're everywhere: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube as well. So go check it out.
Go check it out.
Brilliant. And as always, I say the same thing. We won a global award, darn it. A global award. Thanks to the diverse voices. That's you.
Yep.
And that's why we have a sponsor in StarHub.
StarHub. All right, so StarHub, you can get a lot of sports events from there. So if you want to get a full all-in-one Ultra Sports bundle for about $85 a month, what you can get is things like Premier League, NBA, cricket, all the sports events, all the sports live sports matches. You can get them on this Ultra Sports bundle.
Brilliant.
So go and sign up right now.
Brilliant deal. Now, speaking of awards, this is relevant. As you know, we were at the StarHub event, all 10 games
Football
live.
for all, yeah.
Brilliant. A young girl in a Manchester City jersey, not my daughter, before anyone asks, someone else, a Malay girl, came up to me and said she really likes our podcast and she likes the fact that we also talk about women's football. Last week we devoted nearly all of part 2 to women's football, which is one of the reasons why, thanks to you, we won the Diverse Voices Award and kicks off
we got
this week.
comments about women's football. So Ning385 said, I have a 6-year-old girl and she's going to primary 1 next year. As a football dad, it's very disheartening to learn that a lot of primary schools don't have girls' football teams. Listening to what Nur Shafika, which is our guest last week, what she had gone through, I personally felt that Singapore is still not ready for girls' football yet. I feel that most primary schools are not motivated to get their girls to participate in sports like football. I posed this question to my friends who are teaching in primary schools, and they seem to have a consensus that 8 to 9-year-old girls are too fragile for competitive sports like football, and they perceive football as too injury-prone for girls. There's some truth in it. I mean, it is a physical sport, and you need a bit of a fitness. Yes, fair enough. There is a concern for schools and for other parents, maybe not him, but other parents. But which is why you really need a coaching manual, you need a coaching manual for young girls in place right now. I think we need to start developing it so that we can start developing young girls footballers at a younger age.
Okay. Well, before I get Shasi in, because he's the real expert, he teaches sport, football at ITE. I'll just say very simply, I'm a broken record on this. People need pathways. They need to see that there's a pathway they can take. The reason I visit so many schools in Singapore, call it idealistic, is if a young kid sees, if he can be an author, I can be an author. If Daniel Tan can be a footballer, I can be a footballer. They need to see the pathways. They need to have flag bearers lead them forward. And for the longest time, there hasn't been enough of that. I think of my own daughter. She developed a love of football way too late because they didn't play football in her school and she didn't have many friends who played football. And it was only the Euros, the Women's Euros, and then the Women's World Cup that kind of really instigated this love of football in my daughter. And now she's football mad. She plays for the school team, but she only really took it up 13, 14 years old, and she plays for the school team now. And I'm thinking if she'd have taken that game up 5, 6, 7, because other girls around her were playing, because there was the opportunities to play, and there weren't. That's all anybody needs in arts and sport is a pathway. If you give them a pathway, they'll take it. If it's not there in the first place, how are they going to play? That's all I would say.
Well, there are two things here. I have to disagree with the parent who says that it's a dangerous sport for girls. I don't think so. Basketball if you really look at it, it's more dangerous because of the stop-start nature. You're twisting and turning. It's bad on the knees, bad on the ankles and stuff like that. The landing when you're jumping. So just giving you a comparison, right? And it goes and when you're talking about the coaching manual bit, I think the responsibility, as you said, it's the pathways, the opportunities for the girls to play. The responsibility lies with the individual schools, the school leaders, right? Because if the school leaders, take for example the principals or the HOD says that, okay, we're going to start a football program. They are going to start a football program. The leaders are so important in anywhere you go, right? So you look at certain schools that have football as their CCA and the number one sport, right? It's a culture there. So you got to start a culture. So the individual schools, they've got to start a girls football program, for example. And then from then on, they will then go and get the coaches from an external source, like an external coach, not from the school, but from the external sources. There are some good girls coaches out there. So I think the responsibility now lies with the individual schools. And like you said, if opportunities are not there for them to play, they are not going to play. They're going to do other sports, right? So
and sometimes you're someone who's in both sport and education, like me in a way. Do you sometimes feel that risks are not taken because that mindset, unfortunately, in Singapore is if I don't take a risk, my job is safe. If I take a risk, I could fail. So sometimes it's better just to sit back, preserve the status quo, rather than be the principal or the HOD who puts the hand up and say, I'm going to do something radically different.
Which is why that's why I feel that, you have a coaching man, something like a syllabus, anything, at least they have an idea that this thing can be conducted safely. And then maybe they can be convinced in starting up the thing. But obviously, that's a chicken and egg situation.
I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And also, my last point on this, on the few examples anecdotally, well, I have legitimately heard people say this, that girls shouldn't play, it's too physical.
Yeah, obviously.
I've heard this several times.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, on every one of those occasions, it was a man. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
A little bit of sexism, a little bit of misogyny. Once again, men deciding what girls and young women can and can't do.
We
I think we're
just
supposed to
can't
be a
help
bit
mansplaining.
past that now.
Yeah.
But love the comment though. Absolutely love the comment.
Yeah. We got the
What
next
have we got
comment.
next? Yep.
Yeah, let's go to our next comment. Firdaus SG say, I just wish SPL clubs can have their own stadiums back. Oh, yeah. Different club stadiums give off different vibes. How is Geylang International going to build a community around the club if they have to move from Bedok to Jalan Besar to Bedok to Tampines Hub to Jalan Besar again? Oh, yeah. This really... Wow.
Well, you know exactly what I'm going to say, but I'll defer to Shasi first because I've been saying this for forever.
Yeah,
But,
I think I know where you're coming from in terms of the community and the stadium. And I think we've been talking about this for the longest time. It's just like the NS situation as well. We've been talking about that for the longest time. And the problem in Singapore is the stadiums are not owned by the clubs.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
It's owned by what is it, Sport SG right now. And so the clubs have no control. Take, for example, last season with Tampines, they train at OTH. And at OTH, they have every event being held there, including the pass-out parade for the recruits, the army. And I do not get that, right? So if you do not own the stadium, you cannot do anything about it, and then you're being pushed
and then
around.
this year, you have the farcical situation, like 4 clubs playing their home matches on Jalan Besar.
Yeah.
They're like...
And now, of course, we've talked about this. You've got too much demand and not enough supply, with the Singapore Youth League coming in, good intentions, but the logistics haven't been worked out. You've got people literally competing now for every blade of grass. We had a story recently on our show where the guys all turned up to play and had an archery lesson going on. So they had to take one corner of the field and not get an arrow in the eye. I mean, jeez.
Yeah.
I don't know. We've still got a long way to go, but my overriding point has not changed. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot tech on Singaporeans for saying, oh, you got to support the local football. What local football? You keep moving around.
Yeah.
You can't expect Hougang to support Hougang if they're not in bloody Hougang.
Yeah,
I mean,
Tanjong Pagar is now in
right?
Jurong East and
very simple.
this and that.
I don't want to be like the old uncle reminiscing, but when I first came to Singapore, there was an effort made in the early days of the S League to connect with the community through the stadium location, through merchandise, affordable merchandise. Kids had T-shirts and jerseys. I connect with that guy on the pitch because we have the same merchandise, the same uniform, the same cap, the same T-shirt. I connect with that guy on the pitch because he plays in my hometown. I forge an identity with this collection of players. Until we get those fundamentals in place, you can't go back and criticise Singaporeans and saying, oh, you're so fickle, you're so this, bandwagon jumpers.
You're fickle in moving the teams around. Yeah.
Build some roots, man. Grassroots, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with both of you. I think let's hope that, after all this stadium upgrading and this stadium renovating and stuff, get the teams back into owning one state, like just having one stadium for each team. Last time we had Geylang and Tampines sharing OTH, or Young Lions and DPMM sharing Jalan Besar, or two clubs sharing one place. I think there's more than enough stadiums to spread it around.
Look, a good point on that. Our mutual friend Matt, who was at Yahoo, he said to me, I'm out in the West. Which local team should I support? And it took me ages to work it out. I was thinking, who's playing in the West this week? Yeah. So I just had to go Albirex, because at least Albirex is Geelong and they're fixed and they're settled and they're not going to move around.
Yeah.
But anywhere in the East, I'm like, I don't know, man, because Tampines, Geylang, they could be all over the place.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a great comment, but geez, plant some roots, man, and try and let them take hold, or we're never going to make any progress. Right, what do we got next? Lingish.
Okay, Lingish 1230 says, honestly, I feel the Singapore Premier League is an open race among more than 4 teams. The biggest takeaway is that each of the clubs are no longer like what they were last season, and that gives rise to new challenges to each of them, making it very exciting this season. Not forgetting the fact that AFC representations is open to all except DPMM, so a top finish is what each club will try to aim and achieve. To me, it's more of a strong reason to get back to support your local club and also inviting new supporters. Good intentions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've been doing the first 2 rounds of games already, and there've been some good games, high-scoring games. You wouldn't want to be in the coach's position if conceding goals
4-4.
like that. But I'm just running through the teams, and at the moment, you can't go any further from the Lion City Sailors, because I think they've bought well. They've gotten some great players, and Bart Ramsala is one of them, from former PSV player. He's only 27, by the way. And how do you get a player who's
still in his prime?
In his prime, I'm sure. And from the looks of it, I've seen him play in the first 2 games. He's playing for
He's
fun.
already scored both
Together with
games,
Maxime Lestienne as well.
Yeah.
So it looks like, to me at least, in the league, they could race away with it. Obviously, with Albrecht being an all local team, but I see BG Tampines. They've been good as well. Balestier last night, they beat 5-0. So they look strong as well. But you can't go further away from these 3 or 4 teams in the league, and it looks exciting. And let's hope we have, and it's going to be a long season as well. It's going to be from May to May.
So it's a new challenge.
Yeah, it's a new challenge for the teams, for the clubs, for the managers. It's going to be a quite interesting season.
And if you can't get down to the games, and why can't you get down to the games? Not that far. Listen to this fella, Shasi Kumar. He does the commentary on the Singapore Premier League games with my good friend Rahul Shan. So you've got no excuses. You either go down in person or watch the game online.
Yeah.
Get down and support local football.
Just camp yourself at Jalan Besar. There's always a game.
The only thing I would say, and this is exactly, the only thing I would say is, and this is going to sound very contradictory considering I've just criticised Manchester City. I think, and I know I run the risk of upsetting all the other clubs, the Lion City Sailors have to win the league this season.
Of course.
They have to. Because if they don't win the league with that private model, how on earth are we going to convince other potential private investors to come in and say, be the next Lion City Sailors? I'm the next Forest Lee. I look at Lion City Sailors. I'm like, sorry, guys, you've put in all this money. You've got the great training set up and you still can't win the league.
So you're
they
saying
have to win the league.
The Sailors cannot be Man United.
No, they're going to be Manchester City.
Okay.
This season, Lion City Sailors have to be Manchester City if you're going to recruit more investment, attract more investment. Feel free to disagree. Right. Speaking of disagreeing, this survey that Yahoo has commissioned, fantastic. The results are fascinating.
So last year at the start of the season, we did a sort of like a survey, initial Yahoo survey. So this year, so at the end of the season, we decided to do it again, sort of like revisit what some of the issues and just do the poll again. Eventually, we found out the polls are almost similar.
It's a very credible poll because the stats are consistent.
So we have about 1,500 respondents, so a good mix. So I mean, so we asked them, which do you support the national team? Do you support a local club, or you don't support anything at all, any local clubs at all? 65% do not support any of them.
Which
so
I would about right. No, I think that'd be about right. If you were being honest, man on the street,
15% support the national team, which is also about right.
About right, I would say. I wish it was more, but about right. Yeah.
3% support a local club.
Again, sadly. But, I mean, it's just walk out the street now. Speak to 100 people.
Right.
I think it's probably about right.
There. So that's probably good things. So among all these respondents, 17% said Lions can achieve the goal 2034, which means make the World Cup by goal 2034.
How many percent?
17%.
Out of the 1,500?
Out of the 1,500.
Think they can make it?
Yeah.
That's a high percentage.
That's a high percentage.
But I suspect it ties in with the first point, which is they don't know enough about local football. I think if you ask the 15% who support the national team, I hate to say it, but I think a very high percentage of that 15% would not say it was possible.
Oh.
Being kind to the...
But on the contrary, okay, depends on how you say it. So there are, for those people who both support the Lions and the local clubs, these are
the diehards.
41% said that they will make the goal 2034.
So almost half of Singapore's diehard football fans, according to this survey, think Singapore will qualify for the World Cup
they are very
in
optimistic.
10 years.
Yeah, very, very super optimistic. Or they are...
Former Singapore player, what do you think?
I'm speechless. Absolutely speechless.
Leave it there.
I don't know. I don't know who you guys have been asking, but you're probably right? And anyone on the street, but they're far away. Absolutely far away, and there's no way they're going to get anywhere near the World Cup in the coming years. And that's the honest truth.
But there's one that I do want to pull out, right? So you've got this Euro 2024 one, right? Which says 26% support England, 21% Germany, 17% France, and so on. But what gets me is of the 1,500 surveyed in Singapore, 26% support England overall, and only 15% support the Singapore national team. So you see where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
That's the depressing statistic to me. 26% of Singaporeans surveyed support England in the Euros, and only 15% support the national team. Now, this surprises people, and I'm not trying to curry favour with my audience. I've said this publicly many times. If Singapore was to ever meet England in a football match, I would want Singapore to win every single day of the week and twice on Sunday. Why? Because Singapore need it a lot more than England, right? To move along their football journey, inspire the next generation and so on. Nothing would give me greater joy than to see Singapore beat England in a football match, because we need it. We absolutely need it. And I find it depressing. And something I've never said before, but I'm going to say it publicly. When I wrote my novel Match Fixer, one of the characters in that book was loosely inspired by a real footballer who never quite got over the fact that when he played, I'm not saying who he was, but when he played against Manchester United in 2001, he really had an issue with the fans cheering for Manchester United and almost laughing at the Singapore side. I was there, I remember it.
But you're not surprised, right?
Of course I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. And in fairness, I do think it's improved.
Yeah.
More recently, I think it's a little bit more maturity in our fandom. When the English sides come over and they play Singapore, I think it's much more evenly matched now. But I would still like to see that Singapore figure go up and the England figure almost go down.
Yeah.
That would be the ideal scenario.
Of course.
What do you think?
Yeah, right.
You're the Singaporeans on the table.
I absolutely think so. But again, yes, going back to the survey results, we're not surprised, right?
No, of course not.
Week in, week out, we were just watching the EPL and just wanting them to win the Euros as well, this coming Euros and things like that. So we're just spoilt by the EPL. And although, people say there's the best league in the world, but we can argue, in terms of technical abilities of the players, we can go to Spain or Germany even. But I'd wish that more locals would support our national team, because at the end of the day, it's our players, our local boys, and we know most of them, if not all, and we've got at the present moment at least the coach that has come in, Mr. Ogura. I think he has been quite refreshing as well, and the things he says as well, and judging from the performances in the last 2 games, I think he's onto something. But what do you expect us to do against Korea?
Yeah.
Are we supposed to win 2-1,
No,
3-0?
obviously not.
We are going to suffer. We are going to struggle. But it's the way we are going to do it. That's key at the present moment. We are not going to win anything in the next 10, 20 years. Let's face it. I'll be honest. But it's how the progress that we are going to make. But something has got to give, and we need to start somewhere.
Couldn't agree more.
Talking about Coach Ogura, we also had a question whether Coach Ogura's appointment makes the fans more confident of success. So 75% not sure, which is about right. I think he's just played two competitive matches. So jury is still out. But there are about 15% who are more confident of success, while 10% are less confident. So I think things are looking positive. We can see some positive signs for Coach Ogura. He came to our show a few months ago. Yeah, I think he has some ideas right, and the way he approaches the players, approaches the matches, I think is refreshingly honest. I mean, when we drew 2-2 with China, was it China?
I was there. It was great.
Yeah, and then everybody was saying, "Oh, what a great match!" He was like saying, "No, it's not great result. It's just a draw."
Yeah, you're right.
I think that was the part which caught my ears caught my ears a lot. I think that's the guy you want to insist that the Lions keep improving, and not just be satisfied with just a draw against China.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. I mean, there's a few more here about subscriptions, and basically they say that Singaporeans want to pay less.
Yeah.
They want to pay less for everything. They expect everything to be free. But the one I want to bring up, because I think it's hope for all of us on this table, how many hours a week on football podcast? Yes, I get it. The vast majority don't listen.
Yeah,
but that's a Singaporean societal thing that I've got a much bigger issue with.
It's still a new kind of thing.
We are at least 10, 12 years behind the rest of the world when it comes to podcasts. We're getting there, but it's slowly. But what I do like is 65% of respondents who consider themselves football diehards listen to podcasts. That gives us hope, Shasi.
Yeah, exactly. But you're right about the podcasting here in Singapore, right? We are way behind, right?
Way behind.
You just take a look, and it's like some podcasts are like 20 years ago. We started
one in 2011, and we were too early. We were way, but everybody else in the world
too early for us. Then.
Yeah, too early for Singapore.
And it's only now that everybody's like slowly, because I mean, both of our podcasts are doing well, because we finally get into the groove of putting the earphones during our trips and then listening to podcasts.
Yeah. I don't listen to anything but podcasts, but no. So I take faith in that and hope.
Yeah.
So thank you. Anything else you want to bring up? That pretty much covers it, right?
And they take about 1 to 2 hours. About 24% of them take 1 or 2 hours per week to listen to football podcasts, and that's good.
Great.
Yeah.
So keep listening to the podcast represented on this table, please. Right, we're going to give a final shout out to one of our regulars on this podcast, Rasvinder, who organises football tournaments across Singapore. He's got a great one.
Yeah, D2D Sports company. So he's, I mean, I'm talking about this. He's starting an obese league. So it's called a Fit 5 League every Friday, 8 to 10 p.m. You go down to kickoff at Kovan, and if your BMI is above 30, you can join into their teams and play a weekly league. And and if you play and then if you lose weight, they'll add points to your to the league if you manage to lose weight during during the week.
And is it proving quite popular? He's had a few sign-ups,
right?
So
got a few sign-ups, but if you want, you can always join the team. I think they always welcome you to play at the kickoff at Kovan.
And what's it called?
Fit 5 League. Yeah.
Fit 5 League, and it's D2D Sports.
D2D Sports. Go to the website D2D Sports, and we'll go and sign up for it. Or just go down to kickoff at Kovan every Friday night.
Support the league. Support the Singapore Premier League, either in person or listening to this young man's commentary online. And I'd like to say, finally, as this is the last podcast of the season, thank you Thank all of you for supporting us here at Yahoo Footballing Weekly for 2 years, allowing us to win the Global Sports Award. We're very grateful.
We've gone through 43 episodes every season. This is our second season, so 86 episodes in total.
Yeah, not too
with
bad.
Yahoo. Unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be the final episode on the Yahoo platform, but it's not going to be I doubt, I'm sure it's not going to be the final episode of this Footballing Weekly.
That sounded like a Klopp goodbye.
I did. Like a Mohamed Kudus goal. We're back. We're coming back. Don't you worry about it. We don't know where, but we're definitely coming back.
Keep a lookout for this podcast. Where it's
Thank you for all your comments, but you can still keep them coming. We'd love to know what you think about the podcast. Send all your comments to
Yahoo Southeast Asia on YouTube, Yahoo SG, Yahoo_MY on X, and Yahoo SEA on TikTok.
And thanks again, Shashi. Where should people find your podcast?
Everywhere. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. It's called the Silver Fox Hustle Podcast.
Brilliant. On behalf of everyone here at Yahoo Singapore, I'd like to thank Jay, who's pretending to listen at the back, but he's not. He's our director. And all the team at Yahoo Singapore for supporting us for the last 2 years. Most importantly of all, I'd like to thank you. Without you, we're just two old guys rambling in an empty room. So thank you so much for all your comments in the last 2 years.
Yeah. Thank you, Shasi, for
Cheers.
coming down.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for the support too.
Always been a pleasure.
All our guests actually who have supported us throughout the years.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
That'll do. We're turning into an Oscar speech now. All right, thanks guys. We'll be back again. Enjoy your holidays. We'll see you maybe at the Euros. If not, we'll be back next season. Take care.
Take care.